that? Security's early.
They're all dead.
There's only one man could authorize a strike like that. And I voted for him. You're insane.
My fellow world leaders, you're looking...
Yes, that's that's what we wanted. That's why I fell in love with movies, is to go see those kind of movies. You know, when I went to go see Batman in the 80s, and it made me want to go home and play with my toys and create more stories. That's why I fell in love with filmmaking. So I hope that we give that a little bit of that, at least, to some of the kids out there and people who see it.
We have to assume that there's no one we can trust.
There is one man. General.
Call me Joe.
Drive it like you stole it.
As your good friend.
You know, maybe I'm a different generation, but toys is what spurred my imagination when I was a kid. I'm convinced that it gave me a voice when I was a kid to have epic long, week-long adventures in my backyard with my toys, and it was like my pen and pencil pen and paper to be able to go back and create these adventures and live in this sort of fantasy world, and I love it. You know, even in G.I. Joe, the comic book, which was made to sell toys back in the 80s or 70s, actually late 70s. You know, they had to do a couple of the commercial versions, and then they eventually did issue number 21, which was called Silent Interlude, and that changed the way people saw G.I. Joe, the comic book, because it had no dialogue in that issue, and it changed not just the G.I. Joe brand to say, okay, they're a legitimate comic, but also that they are that changed comic books in general to say that you could do it in different ways. So I think that there's the opportunity to actually take something like this, take a brand, and actually trick the corporations to let us make a movie like this and actually make it better than what it's supposed to be and inspire others too. Exactly, and the escapism is what I love about movies. Is what I go to movies. It's a medium that no other medium can compare to. You have a dream by yourself, and you have no one else to talk about it. When you try to describe it to a friend, they don't really care. When you have a dream with 200 people in the room, it spurs conversation, it spurs relationships, it spurs everything that we love about the big screen. And sure, we're going to have TV, sure, we're going to have DVDs at home, sure, you're going to have download whatever, and on your phone and all that stuff, but there's nothing like the movie experience. And if there's ever a time to support big movies so that we can continue to do things that you can't do on the small screen, to fulfill that giant screen fantasy that you're actually there, present with these big movie stars and on this great grand adventure that you could never have in your own little town, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a fun thing for us.
The new Special Forces unit, codenamed Cobra, will protect us.
We were set up right from the start. We're all that's left.
With extreme prejudice.
Oh, for sure. I think that, and I love technology, and I think there is a place for all of those things, and those will exist whether we want to or not. And I love content online. I love content on your phone, but there is something about the giant screen. It's a giant palette to paint, and you can't take that away. It's like you can buy your stuff online. You can buy Apple computers online, but to go to a store, to go to the Tokyo store and see the architecture and feel the space, it's a different experience. To go to New York City, yeah, you can read about it, but to go to New York City and see how giant the Empire State Building actually is, it changes you as a human being. It puts everything in perspective of where you are placed in this world, and I think that's a good thing for us to experience.
No.
Come to Daddy.
That's just... You feel good about that? No.
Come to Daddy.
It's a tricky balance, for sure, because you're dealing with big stakes and people dying. But you know what I loved about the cartoons is you never actually saw anyone die in the cartoons. When an airplane exploded, they were always on you could see it in the very background. They had parachutes. They all had parachutes. In our movie, we want it to be accessible to kids. There is a responsibility, ultimately, I believe, that you have to know that it's fun. You have to know that it's like you said, a tongue-in-cheek thing. So you're not feeling that it's actually actually a real world. This is a heightened world. It's superheroes. It's playing pretend. And so we constantly had to check our balance to make sure we were never going too dark or never feeling that. And blood was a big part of it. When you see blood, it's like it's too real. It loses the magic of what you're actually trying to do, and it actually is distracting to the adventure you're trying to take them on, and the danger that you're trying to make them feel when you actually bring it to reality. Well, yes, we have a big desert explosion scene where we have dozens and dozens of explosions, and it was on our first week of shooting. It's my first action movie. There's hundreds of extras. There's explosions in the sand, so you can't quite see what we have, like little yellow flags that tell you where not to step. So it's very nerve-wracking, but we prepare for weeks and weeks before, months actually before, and we go shot by shot. We have a Hummer that we want to shoot up in the air 20 feet and shoot forward 20 feet, so that has to get loaded up, and you have 13 cameras. You got one shot to do it, maybe two, but it'll take a whole day to reset if anything goes wrong. Everyone rehearses. We rehearse over and over again all day, and then we shoot it once, and you have all these cameras everywhere. You have your actors. Everyone plays. It's like putting on a big stage show in a weird way, and you do it. And if the Hummer doesn't explode, you have to make a very tough decision to whether go to do it again and take another day up and go do it again, or think that you got good enough, or say that you nailed it, either one. And so we had to go through all of those things, and that was probably the toughest call, is to say we actually need to do it again, and know that there is a danger element to it. No matter how many times you do it, no matter how professional everyone is, how prepared everyone is, there is always an unknown factor. So that's it was a crazy thing, but it was fun. It kind of was both. It was definitely an entirely new realm in terms of working, like you said, with explosions and stunt guys. Is a very different world. The counts are different, obviously. The one thing I did learn from doing dance movies was logistics. I think when you're dealing with choreography, multiple people doing different things, timing, camera work, how you're going to deal with the movement, all that stuff, storytelling within it, you can kind of get caught up in the logistics and forget about actually what the point of the scene is, which is storytelling through characters and how they're reacting, and you lose the moment between the actor and the camera and how important that synergy is, because that's the only thing the audience is going to experience. So I think I had an advantage going into G.I. Joe, because no matter how many big explosions we had, I always reminded myself that the only thing that counts is that little millimeter, several millimeter frame that we were capturing on film with Bruce Willis or Dwayne on the other side of it, and I didn't get carried away with all the logistics. Yes. It was a fun twist that we wanted to do, and we've been trying to keep it a secret to see how long it feels like nobody knows. So it's been a fun thing, and obviously to have these two great rivals fight together is pretty kick-ass. Yeah, absolutely. Pause for thought. I know that we've been blessed with a great microphone. Not a lot of people get this kind of microphone to speak to people around the world, and so when something like that happens, do we stop and think about it? Yeah, we had many discussions of how do we lighten it up, how do we make it so that we really don't convince people that you need to shoot people down, but that it's actually less about that and more about being a human being and being a hero and standing up for yourself or others. And yeah, we definitely cut out a lot of the violence because of current events. We went back. We did our pass. We did several passes, actually, probably 6 or 7, to find the right balance. And it was just a responsibility of me, the studio, Lorenzo. We all wanted to make sure that we were not being irresponsible, because we do know how lucky we are to have this platform. I think think it was more of just trying to, modulate it a bit more and go in and take a serious look at something, because our brains changed. It wasn't that, like, we felt like, this does make people want to have guns and shoot people down. I actually don't think that. I think our brains have changed after experiencing that with the world, and so to go back and reassess how we think about these things and how we think about violence, I think was an important thought process for all of us as we're creating a movie that will last on film forever and that we'll have to live with forever. I don't know if I have an answer, because I don't think if anyone says they do have an answer, I don't think they actually know the reality of it. I think that, if it was a direct correlation, then every violent movie coming out, there'd be some big violent things going on in the world, and that doesn't happen. So, but I don't think that it doesn't do anything. So, I think it's something that we all need to be aware of and just cautious about, and just know that no matter what we are, we're in the media and we're sending out messages, and that message becomes the tone of the world we live in, and we just have to be responsible and understand what we're trying to say, and know that it's not frivolous. We're not just throwing this stuff out there and no one's taking it in. People watch these movies over and over again, and so we just have to be aware, and I think that's the most important thing. I think that it's used a lot by people who want to do that, for sure. But again, it's hard to know the exact answer other than trying to just do our part and what we have responsibility to do as content creators. I don't know why they gave me the job. I had to convince them. I had to fight for it. I did everything I could, and I did my salesmanship on them. So I used all those reasons why they should hire me. So you're preaching to the choir, but it was fun to try to convince them. And I think that you once you get in these positions, they surround you just for their own safety's sake with the best people in the business. So I was so lucky, I was so blessed and honored to be working with the best stunt guys, the best effects guys, the best editors, the best sound guys in the business, and so I think that's one of the biggest benefits. Is once I convinced them to give me the job, they gave me the best, and it's sort of hard to fail when you get the best crew in the world. No, actually, I think what they wanted with this was a reinvention. What they wanted was to relook at the brand, and they didn't really know, the higher-ups there didn't know what G.I. Joe was. Like, they didn't grow up on it, so they literally don't understand the tone. So they relied a lot on me and our team to paint what that was, and we had a lot of freedom. We were on set doing things on the fly and trying things, and do they really understand, Cobra Commander, the guy with the silver mask, who's this ninja guy? Honestly, the studio was sort of like, we actually don't know what to do with it, so please, since you love it, make it what you know people would love, and that's a fun place to be. Yes, he's delicious in it, as we always say. He just he swims in Zartan's power and hungriness. So. Oh, thank you. I mean, going into that movie, I didn't know anything about Justin. I'd heard him, like a couple of his songs, and seen him on YouTube since I do some YouTube stuff, but I didn't really know about him as a person. And when I was talking to Adam about it, it really was like a discussion of like, well, let's look into it and let's just feel out the story a bit. And we weren't going to do a concert movie. And as soon as they sent me a box full of his home videos that he had never even watched, it got me. I was like fascinated by this character. I was like, if I can just take the audience on a journey that I'm going through, because whether you know anything about him or know nothing about him or hate him or love him, that was sort of my perspective, and that I could walk the audience through the discovery of finding this kid and actually getting to really like him, because he is a good kid and he does have a lot of talent, and you don't know that necessarily from the way he's marketed or the way you see him out in the public. I don't quite know because it's never happened to me before until this experience. But it was it was emotionally difficult because it came as we were rushing to the finish line, and we were very close to even not making it to that finish line. And when they pulled the rug, you're like, whoa, I have to work on this for another however many months. But the reality of it was, we all sat down in a room and looked each other in the eye and was like, can we make this movie better? And everyone agreed, yes. With 3D, the audience wants it. Our movie fits 3D. Look at the Himalayan scene. Look at the hallway fight. Look at the, when we're in a prison sequence and we're underwater, it is made for 3D, and we're losing an opportunity. We're not playing to our strengths. And we're rushing a lot of stuff. So ultimately, it was coming down to a responsibility of the material itself, and luckily they gave us the time and space to do it right, to do 3D right. Well, hopefully it comes next. We're still working on it right now. We're in a design phase and trying a bunch of stuff, experimenting with a bunch of things. We're in that possibility mode, but it's been really fun to explore that world. It's a really cool brand, and I love it as well. So we'll have to see.